Hello BookTube. This is Dario. Welcome to my channel, Mostly Reads. This video is a part of my participation in Jane Austen July. I'm participating in Jane Austen July for the first time this year, and it's actually first time I'm reading Jane Austen. A couple of weeks ago, I read Emma. I really liked it, and now I have finished Pride and Prejudice as my second read, and Pride and Prejudice, the most known and arguably most beloved novel by Jane Austen. It's a story about Bennet family who are living in English countryside. It's mother, father, 5 daughters, and the family is trying to get favorable marriages to their daughters in order to secure their future and their financial future. In the center of the story is one of the daughters, Elizabeth, and it's a love story of her and Mr. Darcy, a rich guy. So this is a kind of a helicopter view on a story. Now some guy would say, "Oh man, come on, that's boring. What is that? Give me some Tom Clancy." And this is maybe something that I thought 20 years ago when my wife was trying to convince me to read some Jane Austen. Now I read it, and one of the reasons why I read it is when I saw a video by Steve Donahue, who was saying, if you don't like Jane Austen, something must be wrong with you. And I understand what he meant. If you don't like it, something is wrong with you, because it is really great. This particular book, Pride and Prejudice, it took me back probably 35 years. Back in time, 30 years back in time, not that old, 30 years back in time, when I was, in my adolescence or, even childhood years, when you read the books and you get completely absorbed into that world, you just read it and you live with it, and you are spending, all your thoughts and everything is there all the time. You are just enjoying it, and reading this, it felt like, I guess, like for people who once loved and forgot what the love is like when they fall in love again. I think that must be the feeling, all of a sudden, I felt what I didn't feel for 3 decades. That, of course, I had the great reads, but this, the strength of the experience, it was really fantastic. And the story in itself, to me, okay, I'm not really big on romance and love stories, but this is, at least for me, the best love story ever. Such a fantastic story. Now, how is it? What is so special with this book? There are several different factors there to be that we could talk about. We can talk about her writing. Now, how Jane Austen writes, already said that in the Emma video. It is really clear. She real writing. She hooks you on and drags you into the story, and her writing is very light. It's very fluid. It is a lot of bubbling dialogue in her writing, in this writing in particular. If I compare with Emma, in Emma it was lots of dialogue there as well, but it was quite long sections of social commentary, Emma's thoughts, and so on and so forth. Here you don't have very much of that, but still you are not losing this feeling of grasping the social situation and even understanding the characters by lack of these long sections there. And the reason for that, I think it is that you have all these, you know, quick scenery changes. There are quite lots of lines in the story. You're changing quickly between them and building up the story, so it becomes very, very rich. And in that richness, you find you build up a feeling of the social context, and you build up a feeling of characters very well. It is like I said with Emma. The dialogue is written, you know, it is very play-like, so you can feel that it's really good for screen adaptations, and since this book doesn't have, you know, these long thinking sections like Emma has, it is more adaptable for screen adaptations. And actually, yesterday evening when we finished this book, we watched also one screen adaptation. We watched this one. Screen adaptation with Keira Knightley. I think which year is this? 2005. I watched this once before, and now for second time, and we really enjoyed it. It was very, very well done. I know that, you know, I watched this one as well years ago, and this one is considered by, you know, Jane Knights as I understand as being, you know, the premium one, but you know, it's this one was you know, 5.5 hours. We're gonna watch it at some later occasion, so we chose this one, and I'm thinking, you know, Keira Knightley, both Keira Knightley and Rosamund Pike and Matthew McFadden are doing a fantastic job in this screen adaptation here. Although you have this you know, fluid story, you have you know, this sparkling dialogue going on, and there is a lot of dialogue here. It is the book is very, very funny. I can't remember when was the latest time actually a book made me both laugh and cry several times, and this book did, because of the, you know, this so human content in it. Now, although you have you know, this speed there, it is not in any way written without artistic skill. There are long, you know, sections and the parts of the text that are written very elaborately, and I would say they're like you know, they're like this huge bouquet of flowers. There are lots of, you know, lots of different. You can see there are lots of different beautiful flowers. It's a huge, and it's a diversity of them. And then when you smell it, you get, you know, one consolidated scent. Fantastic scent. And what I mean with that is that when you take one of, you know, these sections here, it is full with content. It is you know, it's quite, you know, long sentences that are building up a feeling that when you read through that particular section, you are left with a certain feeling of, you know, of what is said, you know, in a deep feeling, you know, this scent, right? So this is, you know, the way she's writing this. Now you have these you know, sections, this, you know, this sparkling dialogue, sparkling writing, and as I said, you know, the story is it has several different threads, and when the stories have different threads, what I, you know, experience often when I read is that when somebody is attempting to have, you know, parallel plot stories that are, you know, somehow at the end of the day, you know, meeting together, it is written very often with the intention to have a you know, parallel stories. But what it really is, it becomes, you know, kind of a sequence of things. And what I mean with that, so you can imagine you have, you know, parallel threads that are followed, and then you read in one thread, and then you are completely, you know, absorbed into that, and all of a sudden it, you know, it stops, and then second thread comes in and they are writers writing about that thread. You're kind of disappointed because the thread you are in has ended because you are in it. All of a sudden now you need to read about something else, and then you read, and then you get used to that, like it, and then it stops, and then a third thing comes in, and then the first thing returns, and so on. So you're getting all the time that like this, like moving forward, then stopping, moving, stopping, moving, stopping. So there being you get the kind of a series of chunks. So it is a rather illusion of parallel stories than really being parallel stories. Jane Austen doesn't have that really, because what you have there is that it is like the different threads of the story, they entangle into each other. And how she's doing this, there are lots of chapters here. And these chapters, you can follow a certain thread there, and then in the next chapter, the same thread could continue, and then a chapter after that, another thread could come in. But you understand that while you'll be following a certain thread, in this new thread that is coming, it has been ongoing in parallel with the one that you'll be reading. So it's not that, like in these first types of stories, you have, when you read your chunk, and then you get into the second chunk, these things that you are reading very often are things that have been happening temporally in parallel, but they are presented, in blocks. In her story, you understand that you are always aware that there's something else going on the side in these other threads, and then when they come across you, then you are coming into that. So it is so masterfully written because these threads are so close to each other, so that you are basically feeling like being somewhere where things are ongoing, and what she's then doing, she's getting these threads together, and at the end she kind of makes a knot and concludes everything in a very elegant way. And as we know, ending of a book is the most difficult part. There are so many bad endings. Write a good ending is very difficult, and in this case she did it so masterfully. I couldn't imagine any better way of making an ending of a book. So this was extremely very well done. She's one technique that she's using quite a lot here in a very elegant way is letters. So letters are used to make bridges and to make explanations of what has happened in these parallel threads. So it's very elegantly used here. She's using letters. She used the letter in Emma, and there it was only one letter, and it came quite close to the end of the book. I felt like it was cheap trick. A bit, I really loved Emma, but only that particular thing, it felt like she was building a story, and then there was this need to kind of connect the dots. She couldn't find any other way. She throws in this letter that explains everything. It is like Deus ex machina coming, divine intervention coming at the end, and it really explaining everything. It's not in this book, although this book is written earlier than Emma. My feeling is that the use of letters is more thought through here than there. But what do I know? I might be wrong, probably wrong. But this is at least how I feel. Now, another thing that you can talk about, except of type of writing, the characters. Her characterization is very deep. It's a deep characterization, so that you really get close to the characters. Now, when I talked about Emma, you got really close to Emma because you have a lot of her thoughts, her thinking process, her struggles with herself, and so on and so forth. Here, you really don't have that, but the interrelationship between the characters is so very well described through these interactions and dialogues, continuous dialogues in many different ways, that you build up a picture of a character, so you feel that you know them very well. There are lots of characters here, so I'm going to pick up a couple of them just to give you an idea how I felt about them. Elizabeth, of course, the main heroine here, she's almost a flawless heroine. And what I thought about when I was reading about Elizabeth is that, imagine this is, this is early 19th century, and you have a young woman so outspoken, so independent, so brave, that she could fit very, very well in today's society, where we have so many fine, brave, competent women making their voice heard. But in this book, she's doing this in the beginning of 19th century, and I'm just wondering, how women back then that were, at least to what we think, so suppressed and being like being clearly, below men on the society ladder. How did they perceive Elizabeth when they read about her? She must have been, role model, something to strive after. So it is, a very, very positive character. Then we have Mr. Darcy. Mr. Darcy is, in the beginning, he's kind of, portrayed as being, this arrogant guy, very, very unlikable fellow. But then we see him. Okay, he's doing things. He's there, and he's showing up, and he's saying things, he's doing things that he's talked about, and so on. And throughout the book, the Elizabeth's feeling from real not liking the guy into falling in love with him, they are continuously changing. So we are building a picture of him, basically through her feeling, and as her avalanche of affection for Miss Darcy is growing over time, we as readers are getting to like him even more, and it is written by a woman from a woman perspective, and when I read it, hell, I fall in love with Mr. Darcy. it's a fantastic character, very complex character that is very, very cleverly built, throughout the book. Another type of character we have here is like in Emma, we have a Mr. Woodhouse. We have this patron, Mr. Bennet, the father, and I don't know really how he was supposed to be understood. I know that many people like him, but also like Mr. Woodhouse, I don't like Mr. Bennet. I see him as as a selfish, arrogant, lazy guy who is okay. He's funny. He says funny things, but really, it's kind of a character that annoys me. Annoys me as much as his wife, Mrs. Bennet, and her, obvious societal climbing ambitions. Then we speaking about the climbing ambitions. Then we have another character that I thought was interesting was Lady de Burgh. So Lady de Burgh is nobility, and she's she's in the highest tier of British society, and she is kind of matron there in that region. She is portrayed in a very, very negative light by Jane Austen, and I was thinking when I was reading about her, I was thinking about dedication that Jane Austen wrote in Emma. So this there she has a dedication to Prince Regent, and Prince Regent now this period is called the Regency period, and it was called Regency period because the former regent of Britain at that time was George III, the King George III. That he became insane, and due to his insanity he was incapacitated. So his son George, Prince of Wales, he became regent. So he was called Prince Regent, and then subsequently when George III died, his son George, Prince Regent, he became George IV. And this guy, what we know is that Jane Austen didn't like him at all. He hated his character. He hated everything about him, and when he saw her novel Emma, he thought that he gave her. He approved that she would dedicate a novel to him. Nobody asked him, of course, but he said, "Yeah, you can dedicate a novel to me." So she wrote like this: "To His Royal Highness, the Prince Regent, this work is, by His Royal Highness's permission, most respectfully dedicated by His Royal Highness's dutiful and obedient humble servant, the author." You can't miss the irony here. And also the author, it was anonymous. So at that time, you couldn't really write the name of the author if you were a lady, if I understand it right. So so this is how she saw Prince Regent, and this is very much how she was seeing Lady de Bourgh, and to me it looks, maybe I'm gonna learn something else when I read the other books, but her view on nobility in general, as being arrogant, self-serving, entitled, not good, positive characters in any other way. Another character that I would like to mention here is Jane, her sister Jane, eldest sister Bennet, and when it comes to Jane, she's very amiable and a likable character. What is quite interesting with her, me and my wife, we talked about it at breakfast this morning, is that we talked about how does it feel when your name is Jane, you're a writer, your name is Jane, and writing about another person that's called Jane. I was thinking about also okay, if I write a book and I have a character Dario, would I to Dario give my personal characteristics? Maybe it's only me, but I couldn't really avoid seeing that person as myself, carrying my name. And then he would say, okay, but Dario, that's not that common name. Jane was very common at that time. Okay, now all of you who have very common names, think about this. If your name is, I don't know, whatever, think about if I write the book with this character, would I kind of transfer some of my characteristics to that person? My hypothesis is yes. Then we have Jane being very amiable, in the background person that married advantageously, but not very, not fully, a bit step behind. Very much like Jane Fairfax in novel Emma. There are lots of likenesses. When you look at Jane Fairfax and Jane Bennet, there are lots of likenesses in character that you could perceive there. So maybe my hypothesis, just they're probably, if there is anything in what I'm saying, probably 1,000 papers about it, it might be that there are some characteristics of Jane Austen transferred to the Janes. I don't know. And speaking of Jane Austen, one place here, it really it melted my heart when the narrator, the writer Jane Austen, peeked through and wrote a sentence from I perspective. So you could feel her presence all the time where the story was told. But there a small window opened, and it was so sweet. I really loved that. Another thing that we can talk about when we talk about Pride and Prejudice is that you cannot really avoid when you talk about Jane Austen's books is the context, the social context of it all, and obviously you can talk about it a lot, but a couple of things that I've been thinking about when I was reading this is that this book is published in 1813, so and it is, as far as I understand it, it is supposed to be a contemporary novel of that time. So and at that point of time, Britain was at war. There was the Napoleonic Wars were raging at their worst, and it was very a devastating war for the whole of Europe, a devastating war for England, and we really can't see that war in the book in any other way than by militia's presence. There is lots of talking about militia, but one of key characters there is also a militia man. So you can feel presence of the war, but only through that notion, through their presence, without giving any other, without mentioning fightings, without taking it up in any other way. I read a commentary, in an essay at the end of the. Subsequently, at the end of the book, here that was mentioned that was apparently deliberate, or what they think is deliberate by her to not remind about the war, because then all these problems that these girls had in the book would have been silly compared to the war. So war was basically actively excluded, but still it was there through presence of militia. So that was quite interesting thing. Another thing, of course, that you cannot avoid when you in any of Jane Austen's books is the question of class, and class and the social structure, and the whole fighting for a climbing on this social ladder. On top of the social ladder, we had the nobility, the royal family and the nobility, the lords, and all what their names are, and then in the second tier, you had the landed gentry, which was quite wide category, everything from super rich people like Mr. Darcy to almost poor people like Lucas's and Bennet's. Then in the third level, you had the clergy, for instance, and then the others came down. Jane Austen herself was a part of a clergy, as I understand it. I didn't read any of the biographies of Jane Austen. I really want to read this one, the one by Claire Tomalin that everybody's talking about. I'm going to order that and read that. She was a part of a clergy, and in her books, as I understand it, at least the two that I read here, and the other ones, she's looking. The stories are set in this landed gentry class, the layer just above there. So she's talking very much about them. There's lots of irony, and the level of irony increases, when you come to the nobility there. The whole story is very much about marrying upwards, changing your fortune, changing your level on this ladder, to make sure that the fortunes of future generations are better, this is quite a raw society where the economic interests are coming before everything. And as I said when I talked about Emma, in many aspects things are not very much different today. Of course, still there are parts of the world where marriages are the business, really, getting estates between the families together and so on. But even in the Western world, where people are marrying for love, that love is very often within certain societal limits. You don't fall in love outside of your layer, so to say. So it's still a kind of a similar situation, but it is very interesting to reflect upon. Another thing that comes up here contextually is this. The thing with the property and with the estate, what is happening? The five daughters are living on this Longbourn estate. That is, kind of, it is nice estate. It is not a grand estate, but it's still nice. They have servants and so on. But it feels, you get the feeling that it's a bit shabby, but it's okay. It's fairly grand, right? So they live there, but their father is controlling that estate and owning it, during his life. When he dies, of course, he cannot, it goes further into the family, but he cannot control where it goes, because it is entailed along the male line. So if only sons can inherit that estate, and if you don't have sons, then the inheritance goes into the family. In this case, this terrible character, Mr. Collins, that is going to inherit. When you read this, you think, okay, was it like this at that time? Yes, it was, but it was only one of the models. It didn't really need to be that way. In that particular family Bennett, they have decided to have it that way, and then you cannot change it. When you sit there and you are in that structure, you cannot change it. But then there are other different way to do it, like Lady de Bourgh was referring to in her family, that they didn't really done that. My son, he just came home. The necessity of the whole plot and the problems that these daughters have, and how they are treated, introduced to society, is coming from that particular situation where their estate is entailed on the male line, and it is, of course, you can have lots of opinions about that, but it is really interesting to see what consequences can be when you have that type of situation. So these are parts of the social context in this novel, and again, when you see the type of writing, characterization, everything that you learn about Regency England, it presents this book as being being very rich work, and because of all things that I mentioned, all of things of that is a great book. It is worth writing, worth reading, and then on top of that comes the love between Elizabeth and Fitzwilliam Darcy is something that you can feel it vibrating from here. It's so profound. I just I can't just if you didn't read it, don't be as stupid as me. Just pick it up and do it. You will not be disappointed. As long as something is not wrong with you, obviously, right? Okay, so, and this book definitely, like Emma, gonna reread probably next year already, because this is it's a gem. It's full of great stuff here. And so my wife obviously had all these books, but I bought these two for myself. I wanted my own copies. I love it, and then what I'm now done, I bought the rest. So I have them, 6 of them. I will really try to hold back and not read them all at once now. So I will, stay away for a couple of weeks before at least considering reading any of them. But these, this is so great. I'm so happy that I did this. Great. So there is another Jane Austen July video that I want to do. I wanted to do it tonight, but I will not. I will not bother you with too many of my videos. But I'm gonna do it during the weekend. Jane Austen July book tag. I was tagged by Kelly over at Books I'm Not Reading, and I'm gonna do that. Obviously, just 1 month ago I couldn't have done that because I didn't read anything. But now I read 2 books, so I can do the tag. So yeah, I'm gonna do it during the weekend. So I hope you're gonna watch it and you're gonna like it. So as always, please let me know what you think about this review. I really feel that I like the book so much, and I already now 35 minutes in, I feel I've been talking for 35 minutes and I really didn't convey what I really feel about this. It's a really fantastic read. So yeah, okay. See you. Bye.